Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield the podcast. Great to be along with you. The walls continue to close in on the establishment, the media establishment, the perpetrators of the coup against America, at least attempted coup against America. Every single one of these individuals, every single one of these companies continues to lose to President Trump. The BBC is the next to be exposed. What the BBC did was actually the height of media bias. It was the height of devious media behavior. And it was all an attempt to dupe you to think that somehow President Trump was encouraging his supporters on January 6th to go commit violence on the Capitol. When I play for you what the BBC clipped together compared to what actually happened, it's nothing short of stunning. What member of the media, even if you're a hardcore Democrat and you hate President Trump, thinks it's okay to literally splice together someone's speech to portray a totally different message than what was being spoken? So the job of the media is to capture the essence of the speech or capture the essence of the interview. I get you can't run the whole thing, right? You give a 45-minute speech, you can't run the whole thing on the evening news. But you can capture the essence of it. President Trump did not encourage anybody to go to the Capitol and commit violence. He said, let's go to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically. Let our voices be heard. Show support for our senators. Show some love. This was not about fighting. Well, sure enough, they were about as devious as it gets. We're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about some good news. The good news is it looks like the government shutdown is on its way to being over as President Trump sends a very strong message to air traffic controllers. Get back to work while we're working this out. We'll talk about that today on the program. But Republicans didn't have to give up much. At least it doesn't look like that as I look at this deal that was basically pushed through last night. And we'll talk about what this means for the government in general. Before we do that, though, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at grantlovesgold.com. That's grantlovesgold.com. Look, Augusta Precious Metals is where I want you to go. Some experts are saying that precious metals, gold specifically, could be at $10,000 an ounce in the coming years, okay? Think about that, what that would mean for your savings. This as we seek chaos across the globe. So if you're worried about your 401k, your IRA, this is why thousands of Americans have turned to Augusta Precious Metals to help them protect $50,000 or more in gold. So here's what I want you to do. Go to grantlovesgold.com. If you have over $50,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a 2-minute video that will literally reveal the one step you can take to secure your financial freedom. 2-minute video, one step. This is great. GrantLovesGold.com. That's GrantLovesGold.com, or text GRANT to 35052. That's GRANT to 35052. All right, folks, with that, let's get this show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome everybody. Please like, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on Rumble, thank you as always. Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms. Now, to the task at hand. The BBC. This was supposed to be one of the most respected networks ever. Oh, they're like royalty when it comes to mainstream media. What devious mother scratchers. This is what they did. They edited President Trump's January 6th speech. They've been busted editing it, and now two of the BBC's top leaders are being forced to step down, as well they should. I mean, I know you can't charge them criminally for this, but President Trump ought to sue the BBC over this because this is knowingly false. See, and this is also with malice. So in order to nail somebody to the wall, specifically a media outlet, for defamation, especially when you're a public figure. Like, you don't get any bigger as a public figure than the President of the United States. You have to prove that they knew what they were doing was wrong, and then you also have to prove that they did it with malice. Now, that's pretty easy to do with what the BBC did. Let me play you the clip that shows the BBC's version and then the original version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
An insurrection.
So folks, listen to me. Think about that. We're going to walk down to the Capitol and fight like hell. Well, that sure makes it seem like he wanted a fight on his hands, but that's not what he said. Do you know, it was like an hour later or something in the speech that President Trump said, fight, 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 and he wasn't even talking about physical violence, as you're about to see. So this is the gentleman that exposed all this. And it's pretty amazing to see him. This is gbnews.com that is laying it out for us. And I just want you to know, as the mainstream media was concocting the narrative that we were right-wing extremists, that we were white nationalists trying to take over the American government with no weapons, by the way. All the while, they were doing everything they can and could to paint a false picture of what actually happened that day.
To make it seem like he encouraged an insurrection.
They played the following clip.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
But Trump didn't, in fact, say this at all. The BBC spliced together two clips that took place 54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and, that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's different. It wasn't until nearly an hour later that he then said the second part of the BBC's version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Are you freaking kidding me? They take one part of the speech, splice it with "we fight like hell" from an hour later. When I say these mother scratchers, that's the understatement of the decade. And it wasn't just the BBC, mind you. You had NBC, ABC, you had CNN, MSNBC. They were all painting this picture, only showing the West Terrace, where it got a little rough and tumble. But the West Terrace was a small portion of the thousands of great patriots who were taking an unorganized tour around the Capitol, and they used this, and the BBC pushed it, okay? They used it as a reason to impeach President Trump, to try to bar him and making him ineligible to ever run again. But guess what? They lost, as they always do. They lose in court. They lose at the Supreme Court level. And right now, they're losing on a moral high ground level. Because what we're seeing is the crumbling of not just the BBC and the mainstream media. As we watch them crumble, we see an awakening of great patriots who realize that they were duped by those on the left, the Obama, Biden, Clinton trifecta, so awful, trying to take over the country. Now, we've got Brennan, John Brennan, former director of the CIA, who's now been referred to the grand jury for a grand jury investigation. They believe there's enough evidence there that he lied to Congress. We already have Comey indicted. Well, Stephen Miller went on Fox News and he let the evildoers have it.
Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Obama, Monaco, all conspired together, all worked together to try to sabotage, undermine, unravel the democratic institutions and structures of this country. The Russiagate hoax, the Russiagate conspiracy, and all of the assaults against our liberties that went with it, the pre-dawn raids, the handcuffing of innocent Americans, the espionage against President Trump's campaign and staff, the removal of his national security advisor, one fake indictment, one fake charge after another, the special counsel, all of it was a unrelenting attempt to overthrow the government the American people voted for. I cannot find words harsh enough to condemn the conduct of these conspirators, these insurrectionists.
Well, that's what they were. And the BBC, not even an American outlet, was part of that insurrection, partnering up with mainstream television, partnering up with Democrat members of Congress and the United States Senate, partnering up with FBI agents, partnering up with prosecutors inside the DOJ, all the way up to the Attorney General and ultimately Joe Biden's office and Barack Obama's office, to run an insurrection, a coup of the United States of America. So now this piece of video is about as damning as it gets. And the reason it's so damning is because it solidifies what they did in just 21-second clip of the BBC edit to the original clip. It tells you all you need to know about what happened.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Bingo. Busted. They are crumbling before our eyes. They are like vipers, though. They're going to be lashing out because they're getting beat, and they're getting beat bad. And you watch. They will come with so much vitriol, so much hate, and they will go after all of you because the best way to get to President Trump is attack all of you, which is par for the course for this mainstream media. The white nationalist craziness is going to come out as we continue to call out the Islamization of America, the radicalization, radical Islam takeover of America. They're going to call us Islamophobes and racists. You watch. This is going to be their narrative. Do not let them affect you or your ability to go out there and push the truth. You can't. Again, if you're watching Rumble, please subscribe to the channel. So important. It's great to have you along with me today. Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms. If you would, share the video so we spread the word. All right, I want to talk about the government shutdown here in just a minute. But before I do that, my friends over at Patriot Mobile, folks, are you with Patriot Mobile yet or not? Because if you're not with Patriot Mobile, I'm telling you, you're part of the problem, and I mean that respectfully. I know it's a pain in the neck to switch. I get it. But Patriot Mobile makes it very, very easy, like literally minutes. All these eSIM cards now, you just call them up, and within minutes, you can be switched over. They'll make you a deal to switch. 100% U.S.-based customer service. You're not going to get some crazy person in some Caribbean island someplace. This is about pushing our country in the right direction. Patriot Mobile is run by patriots for patriots, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code Grant for a free month service. 972-PATRIOT is the number to call. 972-PATRIOT. Use that promo code Grant. And again, here's what you get. Great service. You pick which network you want to be on. A performance guarantee that can't be matched by any other cell phone company because you can switch between the main three networks. Can't do that at the other cell phone companies. You can have 2 lines on one phone. That's amazing. And the 2 lines can be from different networks. Even crazier. So all of that is fabulous. Get with Patriot Mobile today. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use that promo code Grant and tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right. So we now have a government shutdown that I believe is on the way to being lifted after last night. Senate meets with some Democrats who are now relenting. They're basically saying, you know what? We can't take it anymore. From a public relations standpoint, this is not good for Democrats. Exactly what I told you. They're losing. They're losing the PR battle on all of this. So they make a deal to push through a couple spending bills on agriculture, veterans affairs, and the executive branch. Get those spending bills through, then a continuing resolution through January 30th with no major concessions on Obamacare. That's a win for Republicans. This is a big win for Republicans in many respects that we had, I believe now, 8 senators come over. This is Scott Bessent talking about the shutdown on with Stephanopoulos.
George, the best way to do it, and look, you were involved in a lot of these in the 90s.
I want you to stay tuned here because he's talking about shutdowns and he's talking to Stephanopoulos, who, remember, worked for Bill Clinton, who was involved in some government shutdowns. Oh, he lets George Stephanopoulos have it. He calls out his bias.
And, you basically called the Republicans terrorists, and, you said that it is not the responsible party that keeps the government closed. And so what we need is 5 brave, moderate Democratic senators to cross the aisle, because right now it is 52 to 3. 5 Democrats can cross the aisle and reopen the government. That's the best way to do it, George.
I can disagree with you about the history there, but we don't need a history lesson right now.
George, let's talk about
what's happening right now.
If you want, I've got all your quotes here. George.
I'm sure you do. But let's talk about the situation right now.
Read your book, so you got one purchase on Amazon this week, and that's very much what you said.
I read your book. It's what you said. We busted you. Sorry, Stephanopoulos, but you stone cold busted. He did say those things. That's true. And the Democrats were the party standing in the way of all of this. And so now we've got to unwind this shutdown. Well, President Trump did something very Reagan-esque today. That Reagan-esque move was telling air traffic controllers, get your asses back to work. Any of you that skipped out right when you heard you weren't going to be paid, you were un-American. And really, it's a national security risk, and you put national security on the back burner. When I say national security, I mean the safety and security of American citizens and their ability to fly. Trump was pissed. So he says, get back to work. And you know what else he said? And I love it. He said, for those air traffic controllers that stayed on and didn't miss work, he's recommending them for a $10,000 Patriot bonus. Great stuff, Mr. President. See, this is what he brings to the table. He knows how to run a business. Now, the government's not a business. Far thing from it. But in the end, President Trump knows how to get things done. So this is Secretary Duffy talking about the shutdown. Now, I believe it's going to take 3 days to get the government back up and running. But longer than that to unwind what happened with the air traffic controllers.
I paid experienced controllers to stay on the job and not retire. I used to have about 4 controllers retire a day before the shutdown. I'm now up to 15 to 20 a day are retiring. So it's going to be harder for me to come back after the shutdown and have more controllers controlling the airspace. So this is going to live on in air travel well beyond the time frame that this government opens back up.
You're saying 15 air traffic controllers are retiring every day, and it was 2 to 4 before? Where do you get air traffic controllers from when you need them quickly? I mean, it's got to take a long time to train them. You better hope there's some in the pipeline coming up, but I'm sure it's like police departments across the country where they can't keep up with attrition. Why would you want to be a police officer today when you're not respected? Now, air traffic control, they're paid okay. I wouldn't want to be an air traffic controller. To go through that kind of stress, you better pay me a lot of money. A lot. But they're great heroes to do the work that they do. Now, I wonder how soon it'll be that AI starts to take over more and more human aspects of air traffic control. At some point, you'll get to a point where it's a computer telling pilots what to do, where to go. There'll probably always be somebody overseeing it. But I know you hate to hear this. In the end, computers are going to have less mistakes than humans are. Humans fall asleep. Humans get emotional about things. Humans get hungry and angry, and humans have all kinds of issues. Humans can just make a mistake. For the most part, yes, computers have glitches, far less than humans. Humans glitch out all the freaking time. So I wonder when we're going to get to a point where AI is really running this for the country. Now, the strategy of the shutdown was a disaster for Democrats. Jake Tapper asked Gavin Newsom about the strategy and put him on the spot.
There are a lot of repercussions for this government shutdown. Obviously, air travel is a mess. And then SNAP benefits, food stamp benefits for 42 million Americans. As we sit here, the Trump administration is fighting a court order to tell them to pay out full SNAP benefits. Vice President J.D. Vance called the judge's ruling that the U.S. needs to pay, the Trump administration needs to pay these SNAP benefits. He called the ruling absurd. He said the administration is, quote, not going to do it under the orders of a federal judge. Now, I know that's 5 million Californians receive SNAP benefits.
5.5, and the difference is in California, they were fully restored in my state through November. That said, they obviously have not been in the vast majority of states. But think about the state of mind of the vice president. How do they honestly, how do you square the circle when you go to a prayer breakfast? How do you square the circle? I mean, Old Testament, New Testament. Well, what's the fundamental thing that connects from John to Matthew to Proverbs? It's this notion of hunger, feeding the poor, the sick, the tired. It's not an option, it's central to advancing God's will. I mean, the fundamental point that we'd be using, because this is what it's about, and the federal government said it in the lawsuit, that they want to use it as a bargaining chip to end this shutdown. That's shameful. It's never happened in U.S. history. And I appreciate the governors, the 23 AGs that stepped up and sued, and we've won those lawsuits.
Oh, shut the hell up. What has he talked about? He's like Kamala Harris. How do you square the circle? What does that even mean? Now, I've heard of the squared circle when it comes to, the WWE. Step into the squared circle, but how do you square the circle? That doesn't make any sense, Gavin Newsom. And two, when you talk about hunger, it was very easy to cure the problem of SNAP benefits, and that was, oh, by the way, Democrats just join Republicans and push through a continuing resolution. Everybody eats. Same spending levels. But you did great damage to the economy. You did great damage to these people that were hungry and needed food. You did damage to air traffic in America. You did all kinds of damage. So then there's this issue of Obamacare and what to do with it. I mean, they're so hell-bent on the subsidies for Obamacare. I love that President Trump has come up with an idea to say, you know what, let's wipe out Obamacare, take the money and give it directly back to the people to spend as they want on insurance. I'll take that deal every day of the week.
So for 1 year, people making millions of dollars would still receive these COVID-era subsidies?
The bottom line is the senator from Ohio ignores that 99% of people, you want to hurt people making $10,000, $50,000, $90,000 and hold this up? We can fix what the gentleman said in a negotiation, but don't have people who are every day being hurt by paying thousands of dollars more that they can't afford. I know that the senator from Ohio cares about the billionaires. We care about average working people. I yield the floor.
So just to be clear, Mr. President.
It's recognized.
So just to be clear, what you heard from the minority leader was the following. I just want to recap it for those of you who might have missed. Number one, he acknowledged that the Democrats have actually not put forward a written proposal that people could look at. Number two, he acknowledged that his plan would be to allow millionaires, let me just say that clearly, people making millions of dollars would receive Biden-era COVID Obamacare subsidies. You heard that right. No income cap. I was going to ask him before he stormed out of the room, because evidently he doesn't want to hear any opposing views or actually engage in meaningful.
So that's the problem with Democrats. They don't want to engage with you. They certainly don't want to hear meaningful news, and meaningful news meaning the truth. And so Schumer runs out the door after he says his things. Now, the media, as we've already been saying, to bring this podcast full circle, the media will run with what Schumer said and cut out what Bernie Moreno says from Ohio, is that there's no income caps on Obamacare. You have millionaires getting this. And by the way, we just heard from California, you've got illegal aliens in California on Obamacare. All of that is a huge, huge problem. A huge problem for me. Now, the Obamacare situation is very, very real. This radio host went on CNN, and they did not like it. You know when I tell you they run from the truth? Well, he had what he calls as receipts, studies, to talk about Obamacare and the wasteful spending and the illegals on Obamacare. Listen to this.
Illegal immigrants are not the reason why our healthcare system is broken.
Yeah, it's not deflection at all. In fact, I brought receipts. So here's the CMS, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, right here with their press release earlier this year saying they were having to increase their oversight on states like California who were abusing Medicaid and classifying it as an EUSA, an emergency system, when it wasn't. You've got the average state spends 5% of its Medicaid roughly on emergency services. California, 35 to 40%. Why would that be? Because California passed a state law that says we will fund Medicaid for illegals, and then, oh, by the way, we'll raise our provider taxes, and then, oh, by the way, we'll use that as a match to draw down federal funds. And they're using this whole cavitation process.
An accounting trick to put it on the taxpayer.
Money is fungible, and California's loophole is abusing it.
Listen, and we...
So think about that. California passed a law that says, okay, we're going to fund Medicaid for illegal aliens. And then we're going to use an emergency authorization use because things are so bad. We're going to take money from the Medicare system and pay illegals, all the while Democrats are telling us they're not being paid, but they are. The gentleman who brought that to light to the panel later went on to talk more about what he exposed.
All right, back from CNN. Ooh, that was a lively one. And they hate it when you bring receipts. But let's talk about that Medicaid thing for a minute, because what you have right now is a thing called the California loophole. Liberals hate it when you bring receipts. But the California loophole is real. And the reason why the left wants to get this whole spending package revised right now is because they want to be able to fund Medicaid for illegals like California is doing. The Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services earlier this year said they were having to increase their oversight. Why? Because California, New York, other states like that were abusing the Medicaid process by turning their emergency rooms into free clinics and then classifying everything as an emergency service and submitting it for federal matching dollars. Not supposed to work that way. Life-giving, life-saving treatment, yes, that's the Hippocratic Oath. Treating somebody for the common cold and giving them basic medical care and calling it emergencies because they walked into an emergency room and then billing the U.S. taxpayer dollars, that's called fraud. It needs to stop, and that's exactly what Republicans are trying to do.
Yeah, it is. And how about having babies? I promise you that gets lumped into there, too, in California. They go into a county hospital, the illegal aliens have their health care paid for, while American citizens get nothing. You walk into a hospital and they'll say, oh, well, are you an American citizen? Yes. All right. Well, you owe $8,000. All right. Well, I don't have insurance. Yeah. Well, sorry. Oh, are you an illegal alien? Oh, we got an emergency use authorization for this little pool of money. You get it free. It's the most backwards thing going. And it is all designed to recruit new voters for the Democrat Party. And then what happened? President Trump shut the border down. So now they are freaking out. And when you see the media start to turn on Democrats, especially when it comes to this, and the only reason the media is doing it is not because they're like somehow wanting to call out these Democrats. They're just trying to push them to change the narrative. They realize they're losing the PR war when it comes to this shutdown. So they hammer Hakeem Jeffries like this, talking about, hey, well, you said this before.
Leader Jeffries, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer did make a new offer, effectively saying, let's extend Obamacare subsidies for 1 year in exchange for reopening the government for 1 year. You have said that you would support that proposal, but just last month you said this. Take a look.
A 1 year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits is not acceptable. It's a non-starter. It's a non-starter.
So, Leader Jeffries, what changed?
Well, the proposal that I was making reference to in October was something that was floated out there by a handful of rank-and-file House Republicans, and that was immediately rejected by House Republican leadership because they have no interest in driving down the high cost of living.
Wait, so because it was offered up by Republicans, you just admitted that's why you said no to it. I promise you, as God is my witness, if Democrats offer up a good idea, I'll be for it. Now, the chances of that happening are slim to none. I can't remember the last good idea Democrats have offered up other than getting Nancy Pelosi to step down and telling Joe Biden not to run. It was not a good idea for Kamala Harris to step in, but they don't come up with good ideas very often. Okay? So I don't think it's going to happen soon. But if they came up with a really good idea, I wouldn't be against it just because they're Democrats. I'm intellectually honest. They are not. He was here because he admitted it. He admitted that he wouldn't be for it because Republicans had floated the idea. Some rank and file rando Republicans floated this idea, so we're not going to be for it. Turns out it was the very same idea that Chuck Schumer floated last week. The exact same idea. Now, guess what? They lost it all because they don't even get that now.
For everyday Americans. The Schumer proposal, of course, was offered in good faith. It's both a 1 year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now we're already in the middle of the open enrollment period. Tens of millions of people are on the brink of facing dramatically increased health care costs that in some cases could be $1,000 or $2,000 per month. That is unaffordable for middle-class Americans, working-class Americans, and everyday Americans. And
again, what do I got to do to shut these people up? You see what he did? He said, well, I was against it then because Republicans were for it, but now I'm for it because Chuck Schumer came up with the idea. It's just, this is what people hate about Washington. And don't think this doesn't happen amongst Republicans, too. It does. But, God, it is just absolutely frustrating, to say the least. All right. Listen up, folks. I want to tell you about my friends over at Energized Health. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks on the Energized Health protocol. Super easy, by the way. I changed my diet around a little bit. They help you with all of that. I changed my workout around a little bit. They help you with all of that. There's a way to get hydrated at a cellular level, which literally transforms your body and speeds your metabolism up. It also starts lubricating your joints. Your pain goes away. This intercellular hydration is unbelievable. And I am a personal testimony to how this thing works. EnergizedHealth.com. Go to that website. Tell them that Grant sent you. There's a masterclass you can watch. I urge you to watch the masterclass. If you want to take your life back and get healthy again, you want to lose pain. More importantly, maybe you want to lose those pounds. Okay? You can do it. Again, 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and it was easy. No crazy fad diets, no gimmicky pills or supplements. This is about science, and it's about getting hydrated at a cellular level. You want to learn about intracellular hydration, go to EnergizedHealth.com, take that masterclass, and make sure you tell them that Grant sent you. You will not regret that one. It's been great for me. It really has, and I continue to use that as well. So now the situation comes where, all right, we got by this government shutdown. So the talk of the filibuster you watch is going to disappear because you have establishment Republicans who don't want to do away with the filibuster, just like you have establishment Democrats who don't want to do away with it either. But those with common sense know that the radical faction, The Looney Tune faction of the Democrat Party will take over, and at some point they will control the Senate, and they will throw out the filibuster. So while the government shutdown may be solved temporarily, remember, we're only going through January 30th, we shouldn't stop talking about doing away with the filibuster. I have had a slow progression to get to the point where I am all for it. Just let's get done everything we want to get done on President Trump's agenda, on the Make America Great Again agenda, on your agenda. Let's get it done. Here's Senator Johnson.
In the Senate right now is pledged to nuke the filibuster. I can't imagine a Democrat Senate for Senate candidate not having to pledge that. So when they gain power, and that's what we need to prevent, they can never gain power again. If they gain power, they'll nuke the filibuster to maintain power. So I agree with President Trump. We've got a lot to accomplish. You can tell by the way they're obstructing. They are keeping government shut because they don't want the economy to do well. They don't want President Trump to get credit for these things. So they will obstruct every good piece of legislation President Trump and Republicans want to pass. So we better act first. That's the bottom line. We will use the 50-vote threshold for good things, to fully secure the border, to secure our elections, to hopefully repair the damage done by Obamacare, transition to a system that actually works, have economic prosperity. Democrats will use the nuke the filibuster to maintain their power. It's all about power with Democrats.
Well, I mean, you've already changed the rules on nominations, right? I mean, you had to get the nominations, the president's nominations through, and you changed those rules. So, I mean, does John Thune, the leader, not expect the Democrats to nuke it when they return to power?
I've got to believe every Republican believes they'll do that. But again, they are clinging. Listen, I wish the Democrats respect the filibuster. It's a good thing for the institution, but they don't. So you have to recognize that reality.
Agreed. This is what you call common sense. Not a lot of people in Washington have it, sadly. When you have a good thing, but you know the good thing won't last, then you've got to take action to make sure you insulate yourself when the good thing goes away. That's what doing away with the filibuster is all about. You have people like Kennedy and others who understand that we got to take action and take it now, because it isn't going to last. I promise you. Now, when I told you that President Trump is winning, he's winning at a level, man, that has been fabulous. 92% win rate at the Supreme Court level. And yet, I think it's 75% of the injunctions, national injunctions issued by courts over the last 3 decades, 75% of them were against Trump-issued policies. Almost all of them have been overturned at the Supreme Court. Now, this is the issue about paying for SNAP benefits while the government shut down. Trump said, look, we don't have the ability to do that. It's constitutionally. We can't just say, let's do it. This is the Secretary of Agriculture talking about this.
Last night, just to very quickly summarize for everyone, the Constitution, basically the executive branch takes the money from from Congress, from the legislative branch. This goes back to the very beginning. We just can't create money out of the sky. That's not how the United States work. Right. It's interesting, the No Kings rally, right, where they said, we don't want a king in America, except now they want a king that can create money out of the sky, the clear blue sky. And so a very leftist judge in Rhode Island said, oh, go create the money, everybody, go find it. And then the First Circuit basically agreed with that. But last night, y'all, Judge Ketanji Brown, no great friend of, free market and constitutional government, said, no, we need to stay this for 48 hours. The First Circuit needs to take another good look at this, that this probably is not constitutional. You can't just create money to fund a program that Congress refuses to.
Exactly. And so the judges don't care. Radical judges don't care. They want to just stick it to President Trump. So they think, all right, well, if we force a court to go rogue, force President Trump to fund the SNAP benefits, it'll look like a big win to Democrats. The poor people will get their food, and Democrats will look like heroes. The only problem is we have a firewall in the Supreme Court right now, and you know what? I'll give her kudos. Ketanji Brown Jackson is the one that overturned this. As Brooke Rollins said, That is no fan of President Trump, no fan of freedom. I actually believe her office was responsible for leaking the Roe v. Wade decision before she was actually sworn in. I believe that's where the leak came from. But on this one, she got it right, which is a good thing. Now, this is how bad the Democrats are. This may be one of the funniest clips that I saw all weekend, talking about the SNAP benefits and why it matters so much to get them paid. Listen to this woman, and then we'll break it down.
Is having massive impact. I went and got my eyebrows done the other day, and my eyebrow technician was like, they're going to fire 2 technicians from here because all of our clients don't have money to come. She's not on SNAP.
Wait. So the customers of the brow place can't come because they don't have the money to get their brows done, so you're going to have to fire technicians. So you're telling me people on SNAP are getting their brows done? Well, then you don't need SNAP. How about you not get your brows done and put your money towards food instead of what? Having the government basically pay for your brows, because that's basically what happened. Yeah, the money went to buy food, but you use your normal food money to buy a brow job. It's ridiculous. And she doesn't even get it. She doesn't even understand that. She just admitted that people on the SNAP program are using the money to go get their brows done. We have a big problem in America. I told you before, the average woman on SNAP in America today weighs 211 pounds. That's a real issue. A real issue. Now, this is what I mean about the courts and President Trump winning.
Bush had 6 injunctions against him. Half of those were issued by Democrat-appointed judges. Obama had 12 nationwide injunctions issued against his administration. 60% of those were issued by Republican-appointed judges. In the first Trump term, he had 64 injunctions. That compares with Biden's 14. And then before the CASA decision, we have a rough count of about 40 issued in the first 6 months of the Trump administration. So over 100 injunctions issued by against the Trump administration. Over 90% of those were issued by Democrat-appointed judges. That means that since 1963, over 3/4 of the nationwide injunctions have been issued against President Trump, with over 90% of those coming from Democrat-appointed judges. Well, some might argue that's just because Trump is more lawless. Well, again, let's look at the facts. 24 emergency petitions were filed at the Supreme Court by the Trump administration this year. They won 22 of them. That's a 92% win rate at the United States Supreme Court. There's not a single other entity, thank you, that
tells you everything you need to know about a weaponized judicial system. Think about those numbers. Since 1963, 3/4 of the federal injunctions against a sitting president's policy had gone against President Trump. 90% of those injunctions came from a Democrat radical judge. So they're shopping their policy lawsuits to radical judges. So 24 end up at the Supreme Court level. 22 of them are overturned. Again, it's not that President Trump is lawless. It's that President Trump is under attack at every level, and yet he still keeps coming over and over and over again. Now, Scott Besson, let's play him again. I want to recap.
The president has also come forward with a new proposal overnight saying it's time instead to do away with Obamacare, instead to have the money go directly to the people. Do you have a formal proposal to do that?
We don't have a formal proposal, but what I have noticed over time is that the Democrats give all these bills the Orwellian names, the Affordable Care Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and we end up with just the opposite. The Affordable Care Act has become unaffordable, and the Inflation Reduction Act set off the greatest inflation in 50 years.
Well, I'm a little confused because the president has been posting about that overnight and into this morning, but you're not proposing that to the Senate right now?
We're not proposing it to the Senate right now, no.
Then why is the president posting about it?
George, the president's posting about it, but again, we have got to get the government reopened before, we do this. We are not going to negotiate with the Democrats until they reopen the government.
All right. So President Trump ultimately has a great idea, and that is to give the money back to the people. I love that idea. That way you can decide what you want to do with it, what insurance you want. We'll bring free markets back. Insurance companies will have to compete for your dollars instead of getting subsidized by the federal government. And that's why the cost of health care continues to skyrocket. So Stephanopoulos is so concerned about whether or not President Trump is introduced to the Senate. It doesn't matter. President Trump throws it out there and let a senator pick it up and run with it after they get the government open, of course. Will that happen soon? I hope so. Now, I have a clip of police launching an internal investigation into a cop who kicked a man out of a woman's bathroom. This transgender dude is in the woman's bathroom. The cop gets mad, say, I've got daughters or wives, get out of here, you're a guy. And the police want to investigate the cop. This is the most wild story I've seen, and it tells you what's wrong with our country today. This is DeKalb County, Georgia. Radical, district attorneys, liberals, leftists running that county. And I'll play you that in just a minute. But before I do, I tell you a lot about my friends over at the Wellness Company. Folks, have you considered doing a parasite cleanse? Parasites are infecting more Americans than ever before. I just finished up my total detox parasite cleanse from the Wellness Company. What you just saw there was parasites in raw fish. If you eat sushi, raw fish, they're living in your grocery store fish. It's disgusting. Well, the Wellness Company has a great parasite cleanse that's mebendazole and ivermectin combined, FDA approved. You take this and you basically go on a total body detox, okay? You'll get the course and you'll have enough for 3 courses of this parasite cleanse over the next 6 months. If that's what you choose to do, that's what I'm doing. I feel better. I've had brain fog cleared up. And this has made my skin clear up as well. I think parasites were infecting me at just about every level. So go to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for free activation. And then don't forget, I know you want to be prepared like everybody out there. I've got food. I've got ammunition. I've got water. And now I have prescription medications as part of my preparation to be safe and prepared if disaster strikes. Prescription medications, the most common antivirals, antiparasitics, antibiotics, including ivermectin in this kit. I urge you to have one for you and your family. My son came down with what was clearly strep throat. I could see the white nodules on the back of his throat. I just started him on a course of amoxicillin, cleared up right away. Didn't have to go to the doctor, didn't have to get a prescription, didn't have to do all, I had it on hand. That's what you want to do with the Wellness Company's kits. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. Yes, Tootie, DeKalb. DeKalb, I get it, with an H. Did I say that right? Sorry about that. I'm a Texan now by way of New York, but I don't tell everybody that. So that one I get wrong. And you know what else I get wrong all the time is Nevada. I say Nevada all the time, but it's Nevada, apparently. Look, I try to be perfect. Can't be perfect all the time, but I challenge you to find anybody else who's close and perfect as I am. That's not true. I'm only kidding, of course. All right, folks. So as we look at this, I told you about this transgender dude that literally makes his way into the women's room. And they're investigating the cop now?
The restroom, the women's restroom, like I have been for months, if not years, never had any issues.
Sarah Swinson is a regular at the Tucker Reed Kofor Library. She says after she used the ladies' room on October 20th, a DeKalb police officer.
First off, you hear the stupid reporter after she says she used a she. It's not a she, it's a he, dude. Well, what kind of news organization do you work for? Oh, Fox Local, Atlanta.
Officer on hand for early voting confronted her.
He says, Excuse me, sir, so misgendering me right away. You're not a woman. That's obvious.
Swinson says she tried explaining to the officer that she's a transgender woman, but he got angry.
This is a police matter. There are women and little girls in there, and I have to protect them.
She says it ended up causing a scene in the middle of the library.
I bet it caused a scene. Do you want that dude taking a whiz next to your daughter in the library? No. And that dude ought to have some common sense that it's not just about him, that it's about those around you as well. And that if you're making people feel uncomfortable, how about you find someplace else to pee? Okay? It's disgusting. You want to dress up like a woman? Fine. But it isn't right to go into the ladies' room. And I will fight this battle all over. And now I got to fight for this cop because this cop is under investigation.
She tried to de-escalate.
Finally, I just nodded, and he walked off, and I was very thankful.
The next day, she emailed library staff, who she says reached out to DeKalb County Police.
The library filed the complaint on my behalf.
There aren't any Georgia laws banning transgender people from using bathrooms aligning with their gender identity.
It's Georgia. How do you not have laws on the books that would ban men from women's bathrooms? How? Because Georgia has turned into a blue state, and it should be deep, deep, deep red. It should be.
DeKalb PD says its internal affairs unit is actively investigating the incident, but offering few details. A spokesperson said the department, quote, remains dedicated to treating all members of our community with dignity, respect, and professionalism.
Does that include the women in the bathroom that feel violated by having a man in there? That they deserve dignity, respect, and professionalism? And there's going to be a lot more of them that feel uncomfortable with that dude, Mr. Gorilla, inside the bathroom than there are transgender men. So how about, again, we think about reality here. You know what a man is. That guy's a man. It doesn't take a lot to figure that out. You can put all the lipstick you want on him. You can't put lipstick on a pig and tell me it's not a pig. Sorry, bro. But you're a very ugly lady. That's the reality. And maybe that's your problem. I'll give you a whole total makeover if you want. Put a pair of jeans on, cut your hair, take the lipstick off. Oh, boy. I don't even say that joking around. I mean it. I really do. Lastly, I leave you with, and I told you so, Ma'am Danny, mayor of New York now.
Commissioner Tisch received a heads up from ICE that that raid would occur on Canal Street. Now, apparently she did give the Adams administration a heads up. If you were in his shoes, how would you have reacted to this? Would you have said, yes, NYPD officers do not interfere with ICE, but how would you have acted as mayor?
What I will continue to do is be someone who will stand up for New Yorkers when Donald Trump is seeking to fulfill his promise to create the single largest deportation force in American history. And my NYPD will continue to not be of assistance to ICE whenever they are trying to terrorize New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs.
Terrorize New Yorkers. ICE is literally taking violent criminals off the street at a record pace, by the way, putting themselves in danger, not just from the criminals, but these lunatic radicals. And so if ICE needs help, he's not sending the cops in New York. How does New York City have any cops left working there? If you're an officer in New York City, I'm telling you right now, quit. Get out. I'm in Texas. There are plenty of departments that'll take you. The state police here in Texas, Department of Public Safety, we would take you. Get out of New York. You want to see New Yorkers suffer, Mom Danny suffer? If the police have a mass exodus. Now, I get it's really hard to uproot your family, but why would you want to work in that city? With Alvin Bragg as the district attorney, one incident you have as a cop where they don't like how you handled it, you're the one that's going to be in prison. You are in such danger working in New York City.
Do you act in the right way?
I think that it's important to continue a separation between NYPD and ICE, and I think it's important to bring an end to a chapter, which Eric Adams said on national TV, where he opened the door to civil immigration enforcement.
I think it is going to be the very start of a chapter of me exposing this guy as the fraud that he is over and over and over again. just going back to the Rumble chat. Loud McLeod said this, hold on, this guy, this transgender dude was not a pig.
Walked off.
But fat Howard Stern. Maybe that is Howard Stern. That's who it is. Maybe all this time Howard Stern was a transgender. It does look like a fat Howard Stern, doesn't it? Loud McLeod. Good one. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Hey, please subscribe to the Rumble channel. Follow us, please, Grant Stinchfield. Also, social media, Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms. X, Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok. TikTok's my address is different, though. Not Grant Stinchfield. It's my address there because I've been canceled there so many times. So, folks, I appreciate all of you. GrantStinchfield.com is the website. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll break down a lot. We got Mark Morano live. He's the Climate Depot, the publisher. He's in Brazil. You will not believe what these climate zealots did in such a hypocritical fashion in Brazil for their big giant climate meeting. They totally exposed themselves. He's going to give us a report on that tonight at 7 p.m. on Real America's Voice. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of all of you. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching, everybody.